the Volleys for Veterans Honor Guard. The actual date that the unit was founded, we really don't know. Some say it was started in 2003, others say 2006. But it came into being because of the efforts of two men, Army Colonel Clayton Hoffman and Navy Chief Eloy Harras. They realized that when the Department of Defense drastically cut funding to send active military personnel to do final military honors for our veterans, something had to be done. Usually, before, when a veteran died, you got active military to come and do the honors at their service. Well, when all the cutbacks, they cut that out. They called that was unnecessary, not essential. So they quit doing that, or started being very picky about doing it. And so Chief Harras and Colonel Hoffman started doing it, started providing those honors for our veterans in the area. To them, the situation wasn't right. It was unfair, and they weren't going to stand by and let it happen, at least in the Texas Panhandle. So they took it on themselves to correct the problem and started doing final honors. Right off, it became clear that the two of them couldn't handle it by themselves, so they started asking others to join. Slowly but surely, the veterans of Amarillo and Canyon responded, and the membership grew. In 2014, we had gotten to the point that we really needed to get better organized and get standardized in what we were doing. We started keeping funeral records, started counting how many times each member served on a team, organized a personnel structure, and assigned duties to each position. The years of running the unit by committee were over. We worked hard to train our members to a standard way of doing things. There was only one way to perform each element of the final honors. One and only one way. We wrote and revised the revised standard operating procedures, the SOPs, many times until we got it the way we wanted it. And in that, it met all of the protocol of the DoD, Department of Defense, documentation on how to provide final honors. And in 2019 and 2020, we fashioned and finalized a set of bylaws as required for an unincorporated, not-for-profit organization, as required by the Texas Business Code. We even have a webmaster, and we have a web page. It's volleysforveterans.com, all one word. Over these years, we were inspected, examined, and accredited by the Army and the Air Force, and awarded certificates showing that. We became, and we still are, the only Veterans Honor Guard in the top half of Texas that has that distinction. Not only that, we're the only honor guard in the top half of Texas, period. We work hard and we train hard to provide proper and respectful final honors to our veteran brothers and sisters that have passed. When we started keeping records in 2014, we provide honors 117 times that year. Our membership was about 87. In 2015, our membership grew to almost 100, and the final honors grew to 237. But in the last few years, we've seen our membership slowly decline to only about 36 active members. We saw steady growth in final honor requests as funeral directors became more and more aware of the quality, the professionalism, and the respect we exhibited when we perform these final honors. Today we have an unquestionable, excellent relationship with all of them. In the years before COVID, we were averaging honors of almost 200 funerals per year. But COVID and other factors even put us in the position of having to stand down for several months until we felt we could safely again provide these honors. And if you were unfortunately involved during that time, you know that they even stopped funerals for a while. We're doing probably still more memorials than funerals. In 2020, we only provided honors 123 times. And so far in 1921, is when I wrote this. This was about 3/4 of the years through. It had been August or September. We stood at 291 funerals. By the end of the year, I believe the count was 245, 400. Yeah, that's what it was. That part of my brain doesn't work anymore. If I don't have it on a paper, I forget. We get a report every meeting of how many funerals and how many participants. But it's picking up. We will, because on a decent week, we'll do 10 or 12 funerals a week, giving honors. I'm proud to say in our service area, which is 150 miles, we have never turned down a funeral request. We have always been there for the families and for the veteran. And in closing, we've learned 2 vital rules that drives what we go by. Every funeral is exactly the same, only different. Now that sounds funny, but it's true. The elements of every funeral are the same, but each funeral is different. It depends on how the setup is, where you got the casket and you got the family on this side or on this side. You've got the cremains with one flag already done. They want it folded or not. You've got multiple flags for the family and all of the siblings. The procedure is the same, but the funeral is different. We always kind of watch for, do we need plan B or plan C? And secondly, probably the main thing is we've got one chance, and one chance only, to get it perfect for the family. And that's what drives us and what we do with the Volleys for Veterans. We're always looking for volunteers. We work in full dress uniforms, full dress Class A uniforms, Navy dress blues, dress whites. We do all of our training, so there's no problem with that. We're desperately always looking for more veterans to come and help us. Some can only help on Saturday. Some work a full-time job. Some are able to help us any day of the week whenever we call. So that's what the Volleys for Veterans Honor Guard does. We don't get any pay for it. It's volunteer, it's for the veterans. We will gladly accept donations from the families, but we don't ask for any money up front. We do not charge for any of our services or our travel. Okay, that's the last piece of paper I got up here. Does anybody have any questions?
Talk about the job that your wife and all the other wives also do along with you guys.
Yes.
We support you.
We have, by the bylaws and whatnot, everything's geared towards the veteran serving. Wearing of the uniforms, the procedures and things like this. But we have the wives or non-veteran members called patriots that work with us as well. Since they don't have uniforms, not authorized to wear them, there are other areas they can do. My wife, Irma, and my wife, they blow the bugle. They play taps. They'll also ring the end of watch bell. So, there's things that other people. Have you ever heard of Chris Dizer? He's with Potter County, Potter County something. Yeah. He's a member, but he has a uniform, but it's a law enforcement uniform. So he can't handle the flag. He's not allowed to handle the flag, but he can still do the bell and bugle, final bell, and also we have occasion to use our rifles. We have our own set of M4 rifles, and we fire the 3 rifle volleys, or 21 gun salute, which is really 3 rifle volleys. We'll fire those on request. So.
Telling some of the funny stories that happens at those funerals. Before the funerals.
There's quite a few, but the family doesn't know it. Family doesn't know it. Sometimes you got humans involved in it. Sometimes things just don't go quite right. So you act like you know what you're doing till you figure out what's wrong and straighten it out, and then keep going. And so it still looks good. Any other questions?
Hey Don, I noticed I was at a service the other day and they did the bell, so that's not just for the Navy, that's for any branch?
Okay, you're going to have to go for me. While we're sitting here talking, my hearing aids started beeping, so my batteries are gone. I need plan B here.
She wants to know about the ringing of the bell. Is it just for Navy or is it for all branches?
Oh, the ringing of the bell came about, one, you can hear it with military, but it's mainly an end of watch symbol that started really with law enforcement. When they lost an officer, at the end of that officer's watch, they'd do a radio check. And each officer that was on duty would sign off. And when they got to the last of it, the officer that they had lost, his name was called. And then they would ring a bell that signified the end of watch, that his 8 to 4 was over, and they'd ring it in his honor. And it represents about the same thing in the military. The watch is over. And for the Air Force and the Army, the Marines, and the Coast Guard, Seabees will ring that bell 3 times. If it's Navy, end of watch, 8 bells. 8 bells and all's well. The Navy, I know the other branches have traditions, but I don't know any of them is quite as heavy in traditions as the Navy is, because we go back so far. But 8 bells when the Navy is the end of the watch. They serve 4-hour watches. The bell was rang on the half hour by the sometimes it was a cabin boy, sometimes it was a sailor that was assigned. They would flip over in the sailing ships. They would flip over a 30-minute timer, hourglass, because they didn't have watches. The only way they could tell time was with that hourglass, and they would constantly be watching it, and every time they flip it, that's a half an hour. They'd ring the bell 1 time. Watch starts at midnight, 12:30, 1 bell. 30 minutes later, 1 o'clock, 2 bells. Flip it again, 1:30, 3 bells. 4 bells, up until 8 bells, and you ring them 2 at a time. So it's at the end of watch for a Navy man, it's 8 bells. Ding, 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 ding. And with the Navy honors, we say their name and their rank that they have crossed the quarterdeck. Fair winds, following sea, shipmates. You stand relieved. The Navy has the watch. Ding, 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 ding. That's 8 bells. That's the end of watch bell.
How far do you go from Amarillo? Texas Panhandle or more or what?
I didn't hear that. Say it one more.
How far from Amarillo do you go to do this?
150 miles. We have been not going towards Lubbock because there was a VFW post in Floydada, but I talked with the post commander and they've pretty much shut down. So they're not doing honors anymore. So that's why I said we've got one next Saturday in Roaring Springs. They're south of Matador. But we range about 150 miles. I'd like to say that we have gone as far as Gilmer, Texas, east of Dallas, and even to South Carolina for military honors. But those were special family circumstances, not normal. We don't want to get, with 36 people, we don't want to get to be ranging like that. But we 150 miles, Texas Panhandle, and bleed over into New Mexico and Oklahoma a little bit.
Thanks for doing that.
It's our honor to do it.
Are there other volleys for veterans around Texas, or is this the only organization?
This is us. It's us. We're the only ones. If you call, like this one in Roaring Springs, the active military have come out of the Marine Reserve Center in Lubbock. But you can't call them the Reserve Center in Lubbock or the Navy Reserve here. You've got to call like Fort Hood, the special group, and I never can remember the name of the group, that handles burial details, and request a team to come to your funeral. They may or they may not. It depends on how things fall together for them. And same with the Naval Reserve Center here. I don't know where that request goes to, but it ends up at the Reserve Center here, and they could send a 2 or 3 man team, but they don't always do it. And it's a heck of a thing to have a funeral set, and it just happened to be one of those that active duty couldn't make it, and they don't let you know, and then there's no one there. So we always tell our funeral directors, if they call active duty, let us know anyway, just in case.